Oil prices ticked back up today after falling to a four-year low on Tuesday. This follows President Trump's decision last night to order a blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers entering and leaving Venezuela. The South American country has some of the world's largest petroleum reserves. Crude oil prices had previously been low amid signs of progress in Russia-Ukraine peace talks. A potential agreement could lead Western nations to ease sanctions on Russian oil, which would free up global supplies. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro's administration is calling President Trump's blockade a, quote, grotesque threat. It's not clear how many vessels are covered by the planned blockade, but over the weekend, White House National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett told CBS News' Face the Nation that the administration is cracking down on a, quote, black market for oil. Last week, the U.S. military seized a sanctioned 20-year-old oil tanker that had departed from Venezuela. The vessel was allegedly involved in an oil smuggling network that helped fund the Iranian military and its regional proxies. This all comes as the U.S. continues to strike alleged drug boats in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific. CBS News senior national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata joins us now. Charlie, what more are we learning about this blockade?
Yeah, so Lindsay, President Trump used the terms total and complete blockade in his post in capital letters, as he often does for emphasis. But that blockade refers to sanctioned oil tankers coming in and out of Venezuela. Sanctioned oil tankers. So ships that have been identified by the United States as being suspected of transporting oil to and from countries like Iran, a shadow fleet, and transferring that oil sometimes at sea to China. But what it does not apply to is like other commercial traffic, even oil tankers that are not sanctioned, including, by the way, Chevron, an American company that can still pass through that, if we want to call it a blockade. But there are a number of those sanctioned oil tankers, you mentioned it at the top, in and around the waters of Venezuela that fall under that list. And Tanker Trackers, an organization, have shown that they really haven't moved since the seizure of that first oil tanker, the Skipper, last week. So a blockade, or at least a deterrent, is already in place there.
And isn't it also typically considered an act of war under international law? I mean, what does that mean or suggest about the Trump administration's possible plans in the region?
Yeah, it is. And this is all about U.S. pressure campaign against the regime of Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro. So we go back to like the Cuban Missile Crisis in the 1960s, back to international law that states a blockade is a belligerent act which, as a matter of international law, is ordinarily justified only if in a state of war or if that de facto exists. So that has U.S. lawmakers questioning the president's authority to impose a blockade without congressional approval. Venezuela, as you said, has accused the president of violating U.S. and international law, and they say they're going to take the case to the UN. And we're now hearing today that Venezuelan Navy ships are escorting some of those tankers for safe passage. And we have to remember that Armada, that's, to use the president's words, includes around a dozen warships that are currently deployed to that region. But they're part of a mission called Operation Southern Spear. And that specifically targets drug interdiction, those 24 drug boats. And this moves on to tanker interdiction. So that moves it to the next level, a serious escalation.
Charlie D'Agata, thank you.